Hey, Flames families. Welcome back to Flame Keepers, the podcast from UIC's new student and family programs that seeks to support UIC families throughout their students' academic journeys here at the University of Illinois, Chicago. My name is Derek Robert Fuchs, and I serve as the Associate Director for Family and Transition Programs and the host of our podcast. Today, we are joined by a very special guest for a conversation about the importance of students connecting with their faculty. Our guest currently serves as an assistant professor as well as the undergraduate engagement coordinator for UIC's Daily Library. Please welcome my good friend and colleague, Jennifer Jackson. Jennifer, welcome to Flame Keepers. Jennifer, we're so excited to have you here on the podcast today. And before we begin our conversation, would you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today. I've been at UIC now for 10 years. I've worked at UIC in a variety of capacities, but as the undergraduate engagement coordinator, the goal is to engage students with the library in more holistic ways.
Jennifer, we're super excited to have you here. And so you've been working at UIC for 10 years, you said, correct?
Correct.
You seem like I think you're going to be an expert on some of our content today. And so I'm super excited that you're joining our conversation because I'm sure in those 10 years, you've worked with a lot of students in a lot of different capacities. Is that correct?
That is correct. A lot of different students in the 10 years.
Yeah. And so, we're centering our conversation about making relationships with faculty members, which is something that students, especially if they're first year, that might be something that is a little new to them. Maybe your students did not have the best relationships with their teachers in high school. So they're maybe looking at their instructors kind of through that lens. But relationships with faculty members are incredibly important to students during their college experience for a lot of different reasons. And so, Jennifer, I'd like to start our conversation just, I think, pretty simply, why? Why are these relationships important, and why should students start seeking connections with their faculty?
So these relationships are really important just because it'll help the student get a better sense of belonging, develop relationships, have a better path while they pursue their academic career here at UAC. It also gives them that additional level of support that's needed in order to be successful.
We often talk a lot about resources, especially within orientation, that big introduction to all the resources here at UIC. And I often sometimes think that we forget about the human resources. I'm not talking HR, who processes, paperwork, payroll, stuff like that. I'm thinking about actual people that students can turn to, and their faculty members are those people, incredibly important roles within their students' experiences here at UIC. I often say, you should turn to your faculty first because they can be the gatekeepers for some information that you need or help you find that success. Jennifer, in what ways do you currently work with students?
I work with students in a variety of capacities. As the undergraduate engagement coordinator for the library, I do programming, but I'm also a trained reference librarian. So I often will see students, particularly at this point, which is mid-semester, when they need help with their research papers and assignments.
You bring up a really good point. We're in the midterms seasons, which is about anywhere between weeks 5 and 8, so sometimes 9,
Sometimes
here
9,
at UIC. Just depends on the way that things are set up for students in their classes. But I think a lot of students might not be turning to their faculty member, especially the later we get in this semester, because, it's too late for me. I can't get any help and assistance. And I see you shaking your head right now. Is that true? Can students still be seeking out their faculty during the midterm season and beyond that?
Absolutely. So it is not too late. This is a great time to start seeking out faculty members. So if your student hasn't done that yet, this is the time to do so. Most faculty keep office hours, so I would encourage the student to check their syllabi. That is going to list what the faculty members' office hours are for each of their particular classes. And those serve as typically drop-in sessions. So the student doesn't necessarily have to make an appointment. Those are the scheduled times that the faculty member is to be in their office. And in these days, it may be in person or it may be virtual via Zoom.
Yeah. And even though the office hours are drop-in, students should still have a good sense of why they're wanting to meet with their instructors to maximize that appointment, would you say?
I would agree, especially now at the midpoint. Students should have a sense of where they're at in the semester, if they're missing any assignments, if they're doing really well. If they have any questions about anything, that is what office hours serves to be, that space and time for the student to get clarity on things that they might not be able to get clarity in class, and have often the time to do it in a one-on-one session.
And you also brought up something. You said students to go seek out faculty when they're doing particularly well in class. I think there is a stigma that is around going to see faculty. You only go see them when, you're struggling
When
or,
you're struggling or when you're in trouble or
Yeah, exactly. But you're saying that's not the case. Students can go see their faculty members when they are feeling particularly confident in the course.
right. It can also serve as a great opportunity to build further connections. So let's say you really enjoy the class. Maybe the faculty member has a research opportunity or has other suggestions for how you can get involved or how the student can maximize their time. Utilize that. Go to office hours.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like Jennifer has said, you never know what's going to transpire out of an appointment. You're talking about research opportunities, maybe even landing some internship connections and things like that. And so,
Exactly.
it's not always going to discuss assignments and things like that. Faculty members, you're saying, can really also be supportive in the launch pad for what's next in terms of career, academic journey, things like that.
Exactly. Because we have interests too. And typically, if your teacher or your professor is in that class, that is something that they enjoy, that is their specialty. So, why wouldn't they want to speak to your student about the thing that they enjoy to do?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And Jennifer, you mentioned faculty being a part of the class, but there's also other members, students who might be a part of the class that can also help students too, correct?
Correct. So the other person that they would want to seek out, and you're typically going to see this with larger classes or classes that have discussion sections, the TA or the teaching assistant. The teaching assistant is also going to be a great point of contact for the student to be able to build those additional connections with a human resource.
Yeah. And just like Jennifer said, a teaching assistant or TA, commonly referred to in a lot of classes, they are students who have completed the course before, have exhibited some type of mastery, whether it's a certain percentage or they've gotten a grade in the course previously. So they are well equipped, to help your student.
Exactly.
And I think it's always really great when students can learn from other students.
Right. Sometimes students are a little bit more open to seek other students out and listen to the advice that they may have to offer.
Yeah, and it's because they have the lived experience.
Exactly.
They've been in that course before, and maybe they've also struggled in that course and they knew how to help. They can help students turn themselves around by giving them some pointers, whether it's for study tips or,
additional guidance.
Exactly. And so families, regardless of how your student's class is set up, really encourage them to go seek out that faculty member to make those connections, office hours, seeking out with the TA to really get your student the support that they need. We're talking about the why things are important, but how can students go about starting to make these connections? Do you have any pro tips, anything, especially I think for our students who might be a little shyer, a little more reserved, or they might feel a little bit, intimidated. You go talk to, an adult about their academics. What advice would you have for helping students and helping our families with how they can go make connections with their faculties?
For the student, you've got a variety of ways. First, you have those office hours. Those are typically going to be drop-in. They typically don't require an appointment, but again, the student should check their syllabi. If you're more introverted or on the shy side, then send the professor an email, right? The goal is to build contact. Building contact looks a variety of different ways. It can be in person, face to face, but it may also just be maintaining regular communication with the instructor. So send an email, start that dialogue there. For myself, I'm in the library. You encounter and the student will encounter so many different faculty and so many different human resources as we've put it today. It just starts with a simple, hey, I've got a question. And the student should not feel intimidated if they have a question. We hear questions all the time. You're not bothering us. We're here to help and serve the student. We want to see the student be successful. So the student, as nervous as they may feel, and that's normal, they should still seek us out.
Yeah, and thank you so much for validating the normalcy of this. I think about if you're a first year student here at a school like UIC, it can feel intimidating,
And overwhelming.
even just to send an email to a semi unknown person, really encouraging your student to start that conversation because you just never know what's going to come of that. And it's a way for your students to start learning how to advocate for themselves, which is a byproduct of the college experience.
Exactly.
And
And
it
advocating for themselves is so important. We want the student to do that. And that's what I would encourage the parent or the family member. Help support your student in learning how to advocate for themselves.
Yeah, because it's not just sending an email. It's making that ask because there's a need that they've recognized and they want to be successful. They want to get over that hump or clear up that misinformation that they might be having. And so really helping your students see that as advocating for myself and my goals and my dreams that I am pursuing as part of my education.
Right.
And
It's growth, it's development, it's part of being a college student, it's part of learning how to be an adult. And so this is the best time to learn that skill.
adulting 101,
Yes.
essentially
Yes.
that
Yes.
that is not yet a course here at
No,
UIC,
it is not.
because I would enroll in that class.
Yes. Yes.
Jennifer, how we've talked a little bit about this, but how can families be supportive in this process? If their student comes to them and they talk about their courses or just things in general, how can families be supportive in helping their students make these connections that we've been talking about today?
I think that's a great question. For the parent or the family member, be that listening ear for the student and really take the time to hear them. Also, and we had talked about this, is it a matter of do they just need someone to listen to
Mm,
or do they actually need advice? And take the time to have that conversation with the student in terms of what is it that you need from me? Clarify as opposed to stepping in and doing it for the student.
so families should not send the email to
Right.
their
Correct.
to their student instructors. Okay, got it,
Correct. The student needs to do that. So taking more of a backseat approach, but having that conversation and starting that dialogue about what is it that you need from me? How can I help you? How can I support you? And using this as an opportunity to learn about the student, learn about where their struggles are, learn about where their successes are. And again, finding out what they need in order to be successful.
Yeah, I agree. And families who are listening to this, I just want to say you've got a whole bunch of experience that you can really help, your student with when they seek out that advice. I really appreciate you saying how to center the conversation of do we just want to listen or do we want to seek out that advice? I know that is a strategy that my mother and I to this day still use when we start a lot of our conversations that are taking more of that kind of more serious note,
Right.
or there's some that we really want to talk about. But, families like, if your students are asking for advice, even if you don't have the direct experience pursuing a college degree, or maybe you're like, I don't even know anything about UIC, but you've gone through life and you've got these experiences that have taught you lessons that could really apply to what your student is going through. And if there comes a time that your student asks for advice and you feel like there is an applicable experience that you've had that can help them through the situation that they're in or help them see the situation a little bit differently, I would just really encourage you to share that. I believe it's called the model of like community cultural wealth.
And you never know what's going to resonate with the student.
Exactly.
So it's always worth a shot to try.
Exactly. I mean, there are things that my family and I will talk about, and I'm like, oh, that's really applicable to what I'm going through right now. I would never have known. Staying in that communication with your student, supporting them, taking on whatever role that they need from you in that moment. Jennifer, thanks so much for the conversation that we've had today. Unfortunately, we're reaching the end of our time. And so before we sign off, do you have any advice or encouragement to our families who are tuning in?
Yes, remind your student that it's not too late. It's never too late to seek out help, to build connections. And then for the parents or the family members, just be there for the student. Help them advocate, find out what they need, and be a great support for them.
Families, you've heard it here from Jennifer. Thank you so much for the support that you provide. We value and appreciate that more than you know. We also thank you for tuning into this episode of Flame Keepers, and we hope that you join us for our next episode, and take care.